The wind carried a strange hush over the valley that morning, as if the earth itself were holding its breath. On the far edge of the small human town of Arendelle, an alien lived alone in the ruins of a crumbling barn. He was tall, his skin faintly silver with traces of blue, his large dark eyes reflecting galaxies that no one in this world had ever seen. His name, once sacred among his kind, had been reduced by the townsfolk to one word whispered with scorn: Outcast. Children dared each other to throw stones near his dwelling, and grown men crossed the road when they saw him pass. To them, he was a reminder of something unknown, something that did not belong. Yet to him, they were the ones who seemed alien, bound by their own walls of fear and cruelty. But everything changed the day a little girl came knocking at his broken door. Chapter 1. The Knock. It was dusk when the sound came. 3 quick knocks, sharp, timid, then a pause. The outcast froze. No one came here willingly. He opened the door slowly, his towering frame filling the doorway. And there she was, barely 7 years old, with tangled brown hair and a pair of eyes too big for her small face. She hugged a stuffed rabbit so tightly that its ear drooped like it was surrendering. "You," she whispered, tilting her head back to see him fully. "You need a home." The outcast frowned. "What?" His voice was deep, but softer than people assumed, like thunder rolling far in the distance. She lifted her chin, courage flickering in her gaze. "My father needs a bride," she declared, "and I need a mom." The alien blinked. Of all the insults he had endured, of all the stones thrown his way, never had anyone stood at his door and offered that. "Child," he said carefully, "do you know what I am?" "Yes," she answered without hesitation. "You're lonely." The words hit him harder than any stone. Chapter 2. The Girl Named Elara. Her name was Elara. She had lost her mother when she was only a baby. Her father, a blacksmith named Rowan, had buried himself in work, hammering steel to hide the silence in their home. Though he loved his daughter fiercely, grief had hollowed him, leaving little warmth for her growing needs. "I see him staring at the fire sometimes," Elara explained one evening as she sat cross-legged on the dusty floor of the barn. "Like he wants it to answer him. But fires don't talk. And neither does he, not much." The outcast listened, his strange hands working clumsily to patch her stuffed rabbit. She had brought it after its seams tore, trusting him with the repair. "Why come to me?" he asked. "Because," she said simply, "everyone says you don't belong. But neither do I. The other kids whisper when I don't have a mom. I thought maybe we could belong together." Her childish logic was unshakable. For the first time in years, he laughed, not with bitterness, but with something warm and frighteningly human. Chapter 3. Whispers in the Town. It didn't take long for the town to notice. Elara was seen skipping toward the barn, carrying loaves of bread, little jars of jam, sometimes even flowers she had plucked along the way. "Rowan's girl has gone mad," they muttered. "Playing with that thing." One afternoon, Rowan himself followed the trail of whispers until he reached the barn. He kicked the door open with the force of a hammer blow, his broad chest heaving with fury. "Elara," he barked. The girl gasped but did not run. She stood between her father and the alien, small arms outstretched like a fragile shield. "Don't hurt him, Papa," she cried. "He's my friend." Rowan's eyes flicked to the alien, his jaw tightening. For years he had ignored the creature, pretending he didn't exist. Now, faced with his daughter's plea, he saw not a monster, but a being who had carefully stitched a child's rabbit with trembling precision. The outcast met his glare, but said nothing. Silence stretched heavy in the air until Rowan finally muttered, "Come home, Elara." She obeyed, but not without one last look at her silver-skinned friend. Chapter 4. The Proposal of Innocence. That night, Elara refused to sleep until she had spoken. She climbed onto her father's bed and placed her tiny hands on his rough, scarred one. "Papa," she whispered, "you need a bride." Rowan startled. "Where did you hear such nonsense?"
"I told him," she said.
The outcast. Rowan sat upright, thunder flashing across his features. "You spoke of me to him?" "Yes," she said firmly. "Because he's kind. And because I need a mom. You're lonely, he's lonely, and I'm tired of being lonely too." Her father's breath caught in his chest. How could a child see so deeply into wounds he thought he had hidden? Yet her innocence was not cruel, it was hopeful. Chapter 5. The Bond. Days turned into weeks. Rowan could not forbid his daughter from seeing the alien. Her stubborn heart would never allow it. So instead, he went with her. At first, he kept his distance, arms crossed, watching as Elara chattered to the outcast about flowers, rabbits, and the funny shapes clouds made. Slowly, however, Rowan began to speak, short words at first, then stories of forging steel, then questions he had long buried about why the alien had come. The outcast revealed fragments of his past. He had fled a war among the stars, his people scattered. To survive, he had hidden here, in this little town that rejected him. Rowan listened. Against his will, he began to respect the quiet resilience in the alien's voice. One evening, as the sun painted the sky in blood and gold, Rowan noticed his daughter asleep between them, her head on the outcast's shoulder. For the first time in years, Rowan felt something ease inside his chest, an ember he thought had long died. Chapter 6. The Fire of the Town. But peace never lasts in a place that thrives on fear. One night, a fire was set to the barn. Flames roared high, crackling with the laughter of men who believed they were cleansing their town of impurity. The outcast carried Elara out through the smoke, his skin blistered by the heat, shielding her tiny body with his own. Rowan arrived moments later, swinging a hammer against the attackers, fury burning in his veins. When the townsfolk saw Rowan standing beside the alien, defending him, something shifted. Perhaps it was shame, perhaps confusion, but their torches dimmed in the wind, and their jeers turned to silence. Chapter 7. A Home. The barn was gone, reduced to ashes. The outcast stood among the ruins, weary, ready to leave. But Rowan placed a hand on his shoulder. "You saved my daughter," he said. The words were rough, unfamiliar, but true. "You have no home. Come to mine." The alien's eyes widened. "They will never accept me." "Then let them choke on their own fear," Rowan replied. "My child sees you as family. That is enough." Elara slipped her small hand into the outcast's, smiling through soot-streaked cheeks.
"See?
I told you. You need a home. Papa needs a bride. And I need a mom. Maybe we're not those things yet, but we can be family." The alien, once outcast, once alone, looked at the girl, then at the man, and for the first time since he had landed on this strange, unkind world, he believed it. Epilogue. The new beginning. Seasons turned. The whispers in town never fully faded, but neither did the bond that had been forged in fire and innocence. Rowan worked the forge, Elara played in the garden, and the alien, no longer outcast, found himself repairing fences, telling stories of stars, and laughing when Elara tugged him into games.